This morning, this was a bus packed with people going to work or the market until a second bomb in as many days here turned it into a mass of twisted metal with bodies and body parts strewn across the road. At least 14 killed. I saw heaps of glass. The window frames were shaking. I dressed up, went outside, and started taking the injured to passing cars, which brought them to the hospital, he said. On Sunday, a suicide bombing inside Volgograd's train station killed at least 17. No one's claimed responsibility for either bombing, but investigators now believe both attacks were by suicide bombers and were linked to Islamist militants. 2 months ago, again in Volgograd, a female suicide bomber blew herself up in a bus, killing 7. And the wave of attacks has raised questions about the safety of the Winter Olympics, only 38 days away in Sochi, just some 400 miles from Volgograd.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. The news, not good, and this comes as the Chechen rebel leader calls for Muslims to prevent the Olympics from taking place and has reportedly encouraged attacks on civilians. Joining us now is a man who we spoke to last during the time of the Boston Marathon bombing. He is 4-time Boston Marathon champ, 4-time New York City Marathon champ. He ran in the Montreal Olympics. He's won tons of other races. I had too long to mention. And he's the author of Marathon Man. We welcome in the one and only Bill Rogers. Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm fine, Steve. I'm fine. I'm glad to be on your show. Talk to you about this attempt, another attempt to get attention for our cause. And as an athlete, of course, athletes are they don't let anything stand in their way in a certain sense, because we understand what the Olympic message is, which is really a kind of trying to get along on a worldwide level. That's what the Boston Marathon stands for. That's what marathons all over the world stand for. So I think we're taking a look at a small, isolated group of religious extremists, which is really a very tiny group of people. But the attention is powerful, and I really think it's a major political issue, and I guess each country takes a look at this issue, and because there have been events around the world, but I think the Olympic organization, I think the Russians, and all the countries that are part of the International Olympic Committee are 200 countries of the world. That's the entire world. You can't defeat the world, in this sense. And I think it kind of gives the rest of the world an understanding of what we have to do, which is to unite and don't let people stand in your way and stop you. Little group.
But let me ask you, small little group. I don't know how many numbers of them there are, but the point is, they've launched several bombings in the past few days, and another one a few months ago, and the call is out to keep doing it. And I don't know if Russia is equipped to stop it or not. Are you certain that the Olympics would be secure from these kinds of suicide bombings?
I think there's always insecurity in the world. I really believe that, Steve. But I will say this. The Russians stopped the Nazi invasion in World War II. And I think the Russian people are very tough. I raced against the top Russians back in the 70s and 80s. I've been to Moscow with the New York Road Runners Club and American runners, and us runners and athletes of the world are united. We are far bigger numbers, and the moderates of the world will stand strong. That's what I really believe, just like the people of Boston have, And I think the political leaders will take a look at this, and they'll come to a solution in the end, And
so you're confident you would go if you were as you were supposed as you went to Montreal, you would go.
Absolutely. I mean, Montreal came 4 years after the
Munich
terror attacks. Yeah, in Munich. Frank Schroeder was running, and he won the gold medal for the U.S. there. And athletes, I don't know. We are kind of a different breed of cat. We're in political issues and everything. They come along, But I'm confident that the American athletes and athletes from around the world are going to go to Sochi. It's going to be a great Olympic Games. Yeah, there might be something. It isn't going to stop them. You're talking about the worldwide community here. You know, you're not going to stop the Olympic Games. You know, not anywhere. I don't believe so. That's just my belief. That's how I live and believe.
We're talking to Bill Rogers here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Now, you and the rest of the American contingent did not go in 1980 to the Soviet Union because of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the U.S. Olympic boycott. You know, there's been talk over the gay issue. You know, some people wanting to boycott over that, and of course now the threat of terror. But again, your take on if you were an athlete right now and you were going to run, you wouldn't let any of those issues prevent you from going?
No. I'm going to be at the Boston Marathon finish line this coming April. You know, and athletes, you know, there's a slogan among athletes, you know, have no fear. It's the way we live. And you know, as an athlete, you're always aiming high. And I believe this sport and all athletes kind of want to live in peace, you know. And yes, I know the boycott. It's very tricky, politics sometimes, and hard to deal with. But I think athletes always do their best and try to rise above. And this is a case where once again, Steve, I really believe this is tiny numbers of people. And yes, people sometimes die and get hurt, but overall, this problem will be resolved one day. I really believe that.
All right, let me take you back to Boston for a second, Bill. I was on CNN on Friday, I believe it was, and Friday. And Brian Stelter, the senior media correspondent for CNN, or the host of Reliable Sources, was on the panel that I was on, and we were talking about two stories: the George Zimmerman story and the Boston Marathon story. And here's what he said when it was his turn to weigh in on the Boston Marathon story. I'd love your reaction to this. Go ahead, play it.
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I wonder if the press overall, in retrospect, overreacted to the attacks in Boston. It was a very scary week. I was scared along with the rest of the country. In retrospect, I wonder if there was an overreaction in the press, because considering the relatively low number of deaths and injuries, whether it was taken out of proportion, given all the other violence we see all the time. Because the word terrorism was applied, I think there may have been an overreaction for that reason.
I mean, I shook my head, and when I walked back here into Newsmax, everybody said, hey, we saw you shake your head, and everybody rolled their eyes and shook their head. So what do you say?
You know, I disagree completely, and it is political terrorism. You know, we all know this, and so it's an issue that is being dealt with. It's an ongoing being dealt with issue, and it's a worldwide issue because there's this small group of extremists. And they travel here and there and around the world to an extent. But overall, the majority of all people are against these extremists. So that's why they cannot win. You know. No,
but you disagree that it was over. I mean, because of the low number of casualties. I mean, this was a huge event, and you don't believe the media overreacted in covering it, do you?
I totally disagree with that point of view.
Okay, great.
A lot of people were severely injured. I've met some of them. I was in the hospital at the finish line with one of the surgeons who ran the marathon and helped a young woman with severe leg injuries. No, I've seen some of the people. I wasn't hurt, but you know, to be in those circumstances, and I just think that the BAA and the folks who were there, the medical personnel and the police did a first-rate job. You couldn't have done a better job.
Absolutely.
No country could. But it was. But terror is terror, and they're trying to shake people up. What you do is you respond, and you don't allow them to shake you up.
You persevere, and you go on. Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I hope you and your family have a Happy New Year. And if not before, certainly let's speak around Boston Marathon time, if that's okay with you.
Yes, of course, Steve. It's going to be a great day.
Thank you, and good luck. I hope the Marathon Man, the book, your incredible life story is doing well, and I thank you for coming back on with us today.
Absolutely great to talk with you, Steve.
Thank you. It's the one and only Bill Rogers, ladies and gentlemen, four-time Boston Marathon winner, four-time New York City Marathon winner, ran in the 76 Montreal Olympics, and again, the list of the IAAF World Cross Country Championships, on and on and on. but did not go to the Olympics in the Soviet Union in 1980 because no U.S. athletes went because of the boycott. When we come back, folks, we're going to switch gears and we're going to check in with Ollie North to talk about this whole Benghazi New York Times investigation, which proves that it was the video after all. Oh, that's okay. Now we can all rest easy. On the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.